So just take a small question before I start. When I say chocolate, what do you guys think of? What does it remind you of? Any memories? Something? What do you think of when I say chocolate?
Christmas.
Okay, that's nice. Any other input?
Happiness.
Yes, exactly. That's often the word that people come up with when we say chocolate. And actually, my background here comes from the chocolate factory. I don't know if you've seen the film. And I think that as kids, we all thought that we wanted to live in this chocolate factory. It was always a dream. Chocolate reminds people of happy memories, of childhood memories too. So what I wanted to see with you today is, does chocolate really improve mood, or is it because it's linked to some happiness memories or some maybe childhood memories, or is it like a property of the chocolate by itself that makes us think of happiness when we eat chocolate? First off, this is actually the chocolate tree. It's called the Theobroma cacao, and actually chocolate comes from the seed of this tree. It originated in Central and South America around maybe 1000 and yes, maybe like 100 years before Christ. And then so here you see the tree, and then here you have the seeds, and from these we will go to the chocolate that we know actually. So how is it processed? Actually, the tree is very delicate, so it requires protection from the wind. The tree grows flowers, which are pollinated by insects, and then these flowers will develop into pods. We have to harvest them, and roughly, if I go back to the first picture, this is kind of the size of a football ball. So it needs to be harvested. And then we enter the fermentation phase, which is critical to develop the bean's natural flavors. The principal effect of fermentation transforms the flavors that we associate with cocoa and chocolate. And then the pods and pulp are placed into large wooden containers where the pulp is allowed to ferment for like 5 to 7 days. During the process, the beans are turned to help them ferment even more evenly. And in order to facilitate the fermentation process, the top layer of the beans are covered by banana leaves. Then we have to dry the beans. It is usually done by spreading them into the sun. Then we have to roast them, and this is done by the chocolate maker. So the first steps can be done outside the chocolate factory, but from roasting and so on, it's inside the chocolate factory. And in this step, the cocoa beans have to be sorted out manually to make sure that only the good quality beans are selected. Then we have to remove the thin shell around them, and we go on to the grinding and refining phase. The cocoa nibs are like ground to paste, which is known as cocoa liquor or cocoa mass. And this pure unrefined form of chocolate contains both the cocoa solids, which is the chocolatey part, and the cocoa butter, which is the natural fat which is present in the beans. Chocolate liquor can either be used directly in the production of chocolate bars or further processed to separate the fat, which is known as chocolate butter. And then we have to go to the tempering phase, which is the controlled process of raising, lowering, and then raising again the temperature of the chocolate to form exactly the right kind of crystals. The shiny finish and the good snap of the fine chocolate is achieved by the right tempering process, which is like very important. And then the tempered chocolate can be poured to the desired shape of molds to make the final product. The chocolate is then allowed to set. Once cooled, it is wrapped up in hand and ready to be sent out. And this is a chocolate that we receive every day in our plate. So as you can see, Chocolate is made from the cocoa beans. Beans are vegetables, and vegetables are in salads. Therefore, this is a salad. Chocolate has been present since a very long time, and even during in the Mayan society, they had a chocolate goddess, which is Ixcocoa. Here you can see her picture. But at the time of the Mayan, the cocoa was not eaten in the way we are familiar with it today. They often consumed the chocolate in a form of a drink, which was usually mixed with water, corn, and spices. And the chocolate has had a higher purpose. It was renowned for health and power, and they used it even to baptize the young ones in concoctions made of water, different flours, and also the cocoa, which was pounded and dissolved in virgin water. Along with being a tasty drink, chocolate was seen as a life-giving and ancient medicinal food. It was thought that the drink made from cocoa was therefore good for the soul and thought to promote long life. Nowadays, the worldwide production of chocolate has reached 4.7 million tons per year. The global chocolate confectionery market size in 2021 is about 205 billion US dollars, and the world region with the highest chocolate market share is Western Europe. People in the US are estimated to consume candy once every 2 to 3 days on average, but this number is even higher in Europe. And what's very interesting to note is that actually the chocolate consumption during the pandemic has increased a lot. For example, in the US consumers ate on average 10.8 kilograms of chocolate per person during the first year of the pandemic. Compared to the year before that, this was an increase of almost 7 kilograms, which is more than the double. And that can be partly explained because the chocolate, as we will see in the rest of the presentation, actually contribute to an increase in positive mood and a decrease in negative energy. And as we know, during the pandemic, the mental health issues has been exacerbated. We have seen a lot of depression and so on, and this might be the reason why people would eat more chocolate during the pandemic, maybe because it made them feel better and it reminded them of happier times. So the relationship between chocolate and mood is highly complex, and the way behavior, cognition, and mood are intertwined and modulated are not fully understood. So this here is a new concept that has been developed by Twanter in a study, and it is the chocolate mood pyramid. It ranks the mood and cognition enhancing effects of cocoa from most general to most specific. So here we see the main compounds of the chocolate. First off, at the base of the pyramid, we have flavanols, which are found in dark chocolate and cocoa, but not only. You can find them in red wine, grapes, apples, and so many foods. They are a form of flavonoids, which are plant-based substances that have potent antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects, which actually can contribute to a reduced neurodegenerative processes and neuroinflammation and an increase in neurogenesis. They represent up to 20% of the compounds found in cocoa beans, but this percentage varies depending on the bean origin, variety, and processing. So here we see how the cocoa flavanols act. The absorbed flavonoids penetrate and accumulate in the brain regions involved in learning and memory, especially the hippocampus. And then the neurobiological actions of flavonols are believed to occur in two major ways. It's either via direct interactions with cellular cascades, which will then lead to an expression of neuroprotective and neuromodulatory proteins, or via blood flow improvements and angiogenesis in the brain and sensory systems. So protective effects of long-term flavanols consumptions on neurocognition and behavior, including age and disease-related cognitive decline, were shown also in animal models. Therefore, here the flavonols, which are at the base of the pyramid, decrease mental fatigue, and boost cognition performance as well, which is maybe why our grandmother used to tell us to eat a chocolate before a test. This might have some scientific background behind of it. And then on the mid-level, we have the methylxanthine caffeine, which is also found in coffee and tea. We also have theobromine, which is specific to chocolate, and structurally like caffeine, but with less effect on the central nervous system. They have additive and maybe synergistic effect on alertness and cognition. So they can either alone or together increase attention, improve the working memory, and executive function. At the third and gradually more specific level, we have the salsolinol, which may exert additive or synergistic activities with all the other compounds which are found. And finally, on the top of the pyramid, as a cherry on top, we have the oral sensory properties of chocolate, which are responsible for the craving feelings of the chocolate. These craving feelings come also from phytochemicals, which at high doses have additive characteristics. And we have also the unsaturated and acetylethylamine, which are pharmacologically related to anandamine, which is an endogenous cannabinoid that induces euphoria. So all these together create the desire to ingest more chocolate and can contribute to mood effects. Women are more prone to crave chocolate, and those cravings may vary depending on hormonal fluctuations, so they increase during premenstrual period or pregnancy. So as you can see, I'm a woman of many moods, and they all require chocolate. I also found a systematic review which studied the effect, the different studies talking about of the effect of chocolate on cognitive function. So 8 studies were included, of which 3 revealed a clear evidence of cognitive enhancement following cocoa flavonols and methylxanthine, which were the 2 first levels of the mood pyramid, if you remember. 2 studies failed to demonstrate behavioral benefits, but they did identify significant alterations in the brain activation patterns. 2 studies have reported acute cognition effects on supplementation with cocoa polyphenols also. So further exploration of the effect of chocolate on cognitive facilitation is, of course, recommended. But all of these studies show a clear evidence of cognitive enhancement following the ingest of chocolate. But what is even more than that is the mindful consumption of chocolate. So actually, this is a study that studied that combined a food type manipulation, so chocolate versus crackers, with a mindful manipulation, so a mindful consumption versus a non-mindful consumption. So, and they examined the impact on positive mood and the decrease of negative mood. So in this study, participants were randomly assigned to eat a small portion, so 75 calories of chocolate, or a control food, which in this case was the crackers. And then they were instructed to either eat it mindfully or not. And the study showed that people who were instructed to eat chocolate mindfully had a greater increase in positive mood and a greater decrease in negative mood than people who were instructed to eat chocolate non-mindfully or crackers. But what is exactly eating chocolate mindfully? So people high in mindfulness, they tend to focus more on the present environment, and they experience situations less defensively, and they allow positive and negative thoughts and feelings to occur, and they are less judgmental in the mindful condition. So people were, in practice, people were asked to slow down, pay attention to the color, the texture, the smell of the chocolate. When eating it, they were asked to chew slowly and notice the sensations produced by the chocolate and so on. And then they had like a scale to evaluate how it affected their mood, either positively or negatively. And as I said before, people who ate chocolate mindfully had a better effect on positive mood and a better decrease in negative mood. So my advice is to you now is whether you feel down, you can just take a chocolate, take time to eat it mindfully, and I think you'll feel better. The emotional benefits of chocolate, to sum up a bit, so it improves mood and enhances self-calmness, especially when eaten mindfully. It reduces negative emotions, and the oral exposure to glucose found in chocolate activates the reward system. As for the cognitive benefits, caffeine and theobromine increase attention and improve working memory and executive function. Flavonols have antioxidant effects, contributing to reduce neurodegenerative processes and neuroinflammation and increase neurogenesis also. So you can take a chocolate whenever you have a bad day. Of course, you have to eat it partially, so don't eat too many chocolate too. But